It ran in my family until it ran into me. The people pleasing, the silence, the self-abandonment, the addiction, the emotional immaturity, the absence of emotional regulation, the lack of depth, I would say, at least in terms of what I could see. That's not to say that people in their own individual families didn't have that, but I believe that everyone has a choice. Everyone has a choice to continue harmful patterns in their family or to be the one person that says enough is enough. And there are so many things that can run in the bloodline of our families, whether it's treating the truth as the enemy and protecting the people that are actually doing the harm, which happens all the time, where the folks that have been hurt are actually turned into the bad guys, the projection that happens, whether it's addiction, whatever kind of addiction. It could be, idolization of certain things. It could be, there's so many different harmful patterns that can run, but we can choose. We can choose to break those things, but it does require courage. And it does require that you are confident and courageous and that you believe in yourself and that you are rooted in yourself and in your beliefs. That way, if you get any kind of clapback, and trust me when I tell you, if you call out a harm or something that has been suppressed or hidden in your family, you will get clapback. Major clapback. Like, you could be the person that nobody wants to deal with or like, and you could get no support and people could treat you like you're Delulu. All of those things are possible, or worse, y'all. Like, people, when they are knee deep or, face deep in the mud, they don't like when someone tries to walk up and clean the muck off their face. They don't, because sometimes people would rather choose to have their face buried under the mud and ignore what is happening than to take on the inconvenience or the discomfort that would come from being truthful with somebody about their behavior, especially when it's an elder, especially when it's someone that's older and they have been taught since a young age that we don't talk about those things. And then that distortion becomes an inheritance passed on to totally new generations that had nothing to do with the situation. It just becomes, this is the way that our family is. And it is so damaging, y'all. And that's why we have to be courageous and choose to not agree, because that's a contract in itself. When we agree to maintain our silence, when we agree to perpetuate and continue cycles in our families, then that is an agreement by consent to participate in a harmful pattern. And sometimes, because we are raised in situations where we are taught that this is just the way that it is, we then pass it on to our kids, not intentionally, but very subconsciously. And that is indeed what has happened to me with a number of harmful patterns that I inherited, not earned. They didn't just happen to me. I inherited them, that were passed through my bloodline. And the more that I have advanced in my spiritual journey, the more I could see in my family. And the more I said, I don't want to live like that. Like, I choose to live differently. And like, when I have tried to bring different, like different way of living or having family and community to my family, most of the time people just act like I didn't say anything. And if they were saying anything, it definitely wasn't to me. And so how I handled it was, okay, I'm not going to chase people and I'm not going to please people. I'm not going to participate where people smile in their face, but they really don't care about me or the best interest of me or my kids. So I'm going to just do my own thing because that's not how I choose to live with my family. And I have the ability to create my own family dynamic in the way that I want to live. And so that's how I've dealt with it. But everyone can deal with it in their own way, and it doesn't always have to be that extreme. But especially like if you're dealing with something like DV or where there's just been a lot of deaths in the family from the big M word, where people get unalived or they unalive themselves. Like these are patterns that can run on the bloodline too, y'all. And I'm not talking about any kind of like behavioral like health or like any kind of even mental health diagnosis stuff. I'm talking about more like harmful patterns and behaviors that could be impacted by behavioral health, as well. But these behaviors and actions, whether it is, direct in like a direct action or saying, or is it just not saying anything, which is also an action in itself. And we have to, number one, dissect what that means. Then two, really like understand how it's impacted us and our family. And once we do those things, then we should seek to disrupt that pattern within ourselves first. And then in our nucleus, our inner circle. And then if you're feeling like it, bring it to your family. But like I said, be ready for the clapback. I will tell you, and I highly recommend to you to be in prayer with your ancestors. Because I know in the course of being a generational curse breaker for my family, my ancestors have walked with me. And a lot of the things that they have suffered through in silence alone and had to live with, they have been right with me to break these patterns in our family. And they are rejoicing. And they are so proud of me. And they are so proud that they have walked with me in breaking these harmful patterns in our family. And I'm going to name one explicitly: alcohol. Alcohol has been horrible in my family. It has destroyed so many, especially the men, in like the lives, and impacted how they treated their families and how I was raised. And now it's moved to my children and his family. And I grew up that way, so I guess I got attracted to people who were like that. And I am making sure that pattern is not going to continue with my children by controlling their environment, the people around them. But also, I am teaching them very intentionally the foundational principles about loving themselves, loving their bodies, wellness of their mind, body, and spirits, and how certain substances and addictions and harmful patterns don't have to continue just because, that they have the choice to change everything. I hope that this message is helpful. I hope that it's relevant. Vel'nari Sha'kai. Peace.